Oh, sorry. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Planning Committee. Councillor Mike Lilly, I'm the chair of the Planning Committee. Before we start, of course, there'll be matters of housekeeping procedures. Action in the event of an emergency. There are no practice alarms planned for this evening, so if an alarm does sound, please evacuate the town hall by going down the main staircase or the back staircase to the High Street and then to the car park behind the town hall in St Romwell Street. This meeting is being live streamed to the council's YouTube page and will be available after the meeting for you to have a look at if you wish to. Please would speakers use microphones at all times and speak directly into the microphone, and would participants please mute the microphones when not speaking. Introductions now. Members of the committee and officers will introduce themselves, starting from my left.
Good evening, everyone. Councillor Lynn Barton, Shrub End Ward.
Councillor Mike Hawkson, Anson St John's Wards.
Councillor Robert Davidson, Merzion Pyfleet Ward.
Sam McLean, Newtown and Christchurch.
Good evening, Councillor Roger Mannion from Tiptree Ward.
Councillor Jackie McLean, Markstown Lair Ward.
Martin Warnes, Beerchurch.
Councillor Sam McCarthy, representing Shrub End Ward.
Councillor Lee Tate for Prettygate Ward.
Planning Officer Philip Morton.
Planning Officer Nicola Perry.
Nadine Calder, Principal Planning Officer.
And Simon Cairns, Joint Head of Planning.
Robert Carmichael, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you all. Members of the committee may use electronic devices to access their meeting papers, and visitors are welcome to use mobile phones and other devices, including cameras. But please use them discreetly, set them to silent, and do not use voice or camera flash functions. We will have a break after the completion at 7:30 p.m. or an appropriate time if needed. There are toilets on every floor in the building, and there's an induction loop in this room. Whilst determination of a planning application is not a quasi-judicial process, unlike certain licensing functions carried out by the local authority, it is a formal administrative process involving the application of national and local policies. Reference to legislation and case law, as well as rules of procedure, rights of appeal, and an expectation that people will act reasonably and fairly. All involved in these decisions should remember that the possibility that an aggrieved party may seek a judicial review and or complain to the Ombudsman on grounds of maladministration or breach of the authority's code. Substitutes, there are no substitutes for tonight. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest, councillors? None indicated, thank you. Have your say. If anyone has a petition they wish to present to me now on any of the items on the agenda this evening, please do so now. One day there will.
Does that mean me?
And have you got a petition to present?
I'm stating an objection to a plan. Is that a petition?
No, it doesn't. It means there's a physical form. Loads of people have signed it, saying they object to it in the form of a.
Thank you. I'm not clear about these things. Thank you.
Okay, so you'll just speak and against the application.
Yes.
And come to you in just a moment when we call that plan application. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Item 6, minutes. Members have before the draft minutes from the meeting held on the 28th of September 2023, the 19th of October 2023, and the 9th of November 2023. Are there any points of accuracy that need to be addressed? Has anyone got any issues they wish to bring forward? No, in that case, can I have a proposer, Councillor McLean, and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Tate, thank you. Are we all in favour of the minutes being an accurate and true record? Show your hands. Thank you very much for that. And now we move on to the applications for tonight. We have 3 applications. I'll do them in the order that they appear on the agenda, but we'll move them. So we have 7.1, land to the east of Newburn Road, Great Tay. That's approval for that. Nadine Calder is the planning officer. We have Martin Hammond speaking against. Sorry, Mel, I've got the wrong glasses on. Never go to have your eyes checked. Sorry, I can see. So we've got public against is Marion Hammer, public for is Andrew Ransom, councillors, visiting councillors, Councillor Sunnox is here. And 7.2, John Castaway is recommended for refusal. Philip Morton is the planning officer. Jennifer Radford is speaking against on Zoom. And then Councillor Dave Harris is a visiting councillor. And then on the back, 7.3, we have Holly Cottage, Straight Road, Boxted, recommended for approval. Nicola is presenting that. And then we have no speakers for or against and no visiting councillors for that. We will be moving 7.1 up the agenda so we can accommodate the public speaker tonight, as she has another function later. Sorry, 7.2 is going to be the first item and the swap of it was 7.1. Committee, as we have no speakers for or against on 7.3, does anybody wish to take this on block, or does anyone wish to call this out to here tonight? Have I got a proposal for taking on block? Councillor Barton is proposing. Seconded. Councillor Lee Taylor came very quick tonight. Okay, so we have a proposer and a seconder for that application. All those in favour of the application as per set out in the agenda tonight, please raise your hands.
That is unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, that's passed for approval then. So now, sorry, just a little bit of legal jargon. I can confirm that those items have been determined in line with the officer recommendation in the report and amendment sheet, and there will not be further discussion on those items. Any interested parties in attendance for those items may wish to leave now. That's 7.3. Okay, so now we move on to our first application, which is 7.2, John Castaway in Colchester, and we have Philip Morton to present the case. I think you're quite quiet, so can you move your microphone a bit closer, please? Thank you very much. Down to you now.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, everybody. Item 7. I'll just share my screen. Here we go. Item 7.2 is retrospective planning permission for the erection of a fence which closes off the pedestrian route between Johncastle Way and Bourne Court to prevent documented antisocial behaviour. The application was called in by Councillor Warren so that material planning considerations can be discussed by this committee. We have had a consultation response on the amendment sheet from Essex Police Designing Out of Crime Office. Further to this, we have had 2 further reps from members of the public, which highlight the documented issues with antisocial behaviour that the occupants of Johncastle Way have dealt with during the pedestrian routes operation. The first slide is an outline map showing the position of the pedestrian route that was secured by condition of the approved outline permission of the development, the original application 132075. The next slide, it shows a similar plan with the positioning of the fence right in the bottom right hand corner. The next slide shows an aerial view for better context of the siting of the fence between Bourne Court and Johncastle Way. Here we have a view from Bourne Court itself of the fence next to some houses in the development, and here's a close-up view. And we have a similar from Johncastle Way with the other side of the fence and a further close-up view. As outlined in the committee report, there are concerns that the closing off the pedestrian route will lead to a loss of an accessible route, a link which helps provide and promote active and sustainable modes of transport for the local community. Officers fully appreciate the seriousness of the antisocial behaviour that has been experienced by the occupants of Johncastle Way, but still wish to retain some permeability through the use of the footpath cycleway for the benefit of the wider public, in line with local policy that was secured by way of condition in the original application and agreed when put before this committee. By way of a compromise, we have now amended the recommendation to that of an approval, subject to condition. Sorry. Here we go. Subject to a condition that a lockable gate be installed in place of the fence panels by submission of a scheme of approval to include details of the times at which the gate will be closed and locked, to be subsequently agreed upon following consultation with ward councillors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And now we'll take the speakers. The public speaker against is Jennifer Radford. Please.
Okay. Good evening. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can, and we can see you clearly as well. So
Lovely.
you have, before you start, you have 3 minutes, and a bell will go after 2 minutes, indicating you have a minute left. We'll start when you start speaking, please.
Thank you very much. I'm speaking on behalf of several residents of Bourne Court, Dudley Close, and one in Johncastle Way. The lady in Johncastle Way, who is on the wrong side of the fence, is frustrated for her. She is aggrieved that she is cut off from access and her opinion was never asked. It's also very frustrating for deliveries and post because her house no longer seems to exist because it's outside the fence and therefore not seen to be part of Johncastle Way. The people who live in Dudley Close, which backs onto the walkway, say they have never seen suspicious behaviour in all the walkers that they observe from their properties. They are, however, impressed with the number of lost and confused walkers looking for a way through to the amenities on the other side. They say that maybe making fuller use by normal walkers and cyclists would minimise perceived misuse of the area. They also say that they have not been aware of motorcycles and are certain that the noise would have alerted them to this activity. There are a lot of normal people who are used to using this pathway and search along Dursley Close for a way through. For myself, I have lived in Bourne Court for 11 years now and have never experienced any threatening or antisocial behaviour. Maybe that's because I'm a friendly old lady who bakes cakes for newcomers and greets people in a friendly manner, which means I know most people, even if I'm not best friends with them, but neighbourly like everybody here. Only one incident comes to mind when a young man in a safe placement played music very loudly in excitement at his new home. As soon as he knew how loud and aggravating it was, he turned it down. He was a nice boy who liked chocolate cake, and I have always found the teenagers and young people around here to be very friendly and helpful. I used to be able to walk to my GP surgery and the pharmacy and to take my grandsons with their bikes to Abbey Field. I can no longer do that. I suffer severe arthritis, and the boys have painful joint condition, which means that the distance to walk is 3 times greater now than it was before and necessitates me taking a car journey instead of walking. The only bad behaviour I experienced was when my youngest son, who had decided to walk home from Abbey Field on his own one day, forgot and tried to come home through Johncastle Way. He was shouted at and threatened with arrest by a man. That was one very distressed small boy. So that's basically the objections of the people who live here. This walkway has always been available to us, and we've never had any stopped.
You've gone over your 3 minutes now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
It's okay. And I think we should have made a site visit today with those cakes flying around. Thank you.
Maybe I should have brought you one.
No, please don't. As a bribe. To get back to matters, we have no public for defending this. The agent never even replied to the request for them to come. So we'll now move on to visiting the councillor, Councillor Dave Harris. Are you visiting as a ward councillor or a county councillor? You know, one has more time than the other.
I'm here and very pleased to be able to be here and speak to you as well.
Well, you know the drill.
I do.
Councillor
20
Harris?
minutes and you'll stop me. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you very much, committee. It's always a pleasure to come and talk to you at these times. On this case, you're going to have the wisdom of Solomon, and there's no cutting babies in half, I'm afraid. What has to happen here is I think you're going to have to study all of the form on it. I know this area well. I used to own the house in Queen Mary Avenue that my back garden backed onto this site, so I know it very well, not only as a ward councillor with my colleagues, but I used to live there years ago. 2016, this planning application was agreed. It approved, if you recall, a footpath going through there. I've got an email box that's huge on this. It goes back some years. No sooner had people starting to move in, and they were very happy to be there. It's one of the best developments I've seen, actually, incidentally, the Johncastle Way. It's a wonderful development. It's got a lovely tree in the centre, very well built houses, and the residents are very welcoming there and very good. And people were able to walk through there all of a sudden and share their community with the new people that are moving in and the people of Bourne Court. Jennifer, you heard just now, a very lovely lady who knows the area well and has lived there some years. were all walked through there. But very soon it happened. You had a few motorcyclists going through there. I can tell you it happened because I had inboxes in my emails. And what happened was they were able to put up a staggered gate there to stop slow motorcyclists down. And it wasn't just motorcyclists, ladies and gentlemen. The cycling fraternity lobbied for that path to go through their chair. And they did, and they do use it. But you can see how the proximity of the front door of that small bungalow, the very narrow bungalow you saw in the pictures, people open their front door and wish there was a cyclist going through there. Now, it was very quickly slowed down and it all became quiet after they put the cycling bit in there. But then I started getting calls about antisocial behaviour. So the people, the good people, the responsible people were using the footpath very well to go to the cemetery, and they're doing their business, and it was great, all was well. But then the antisocial behaviour happened, and it did happen because I've got lots of emails in my box, and you see, I sent an email last night to Mr. Morton. It was sent to me very late last night, as he knows. I'd only got that late, Master, when I handed it over, who testified how many times, 25 times he's rung the police. Whether you had incident numbers or not, I don't know, Chair, but you know yourself how difficult it is to get an incident number from a police response phone number and actually document it. But I'm sure it happened. I've got no doubt it happened. There's no doubt in my mind it's a good facility for people to walk through. So I'm very taught on this, because on one hand, I've got residents who want to be able to walk through and do the honest business that they've got. And on the other hand, you've got residents who are experiencing damage to cars, property, being sworn at, etc. So you have to have the wisdom here as a committee. I wouldn't want to be sitting on your side of the table, and you're going to have to make this decision, I'm afraid. I've got equal inboxes on both sides of the fence, and I can see the merits of both. I hear what the officer said about having a lock gate there, which is by negotiation locked at certain times of the day and night, which I think is a sensible solution. And I'd like to think not only the residents of John Castle Way would have a say in that, but the residents surrounding in Bourne Court, Jennifer, for example, and others like her who wish to walk through there. So I'll rest there, Chair. As far as I'm concerned, it's in your hands. It's a properly constituted planning application for 2016. There should be a route through there, but at the same time, you have to recognise that what's been happening to those residents is intolerable. They cannot put up with that, and we have to find a way of doing it. Either CCTV, that was one of the suggestions I was going to give you, or a lockable gate, which you seem to have come up with. For me, we've got to heed both sides of the argument, and I'll leave it to you. I shall stand by your every word, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. We're back to Philip now. Would you like to respond to the comments that the member of the public has made, and also what Councillor Harris has said, and maybe repeat what the police have said as well? So that's a big issue there.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Design and Out Crime Office from Essex Police commented late in the day, obviously, on the amendment sheet, and said that within the last 12 months they have had no recorded crimes of antisocial behaviour on John Castle Way, as far as they're aware. In the last 12 months, they've had nothing recorded, but you know, they are aware that these things happen, and some big times they don't get recorded. On the other points, I don't know. Obviously, we would like the pedestrian route to remain open to the wider community, as it was approved at this committee, but also we recognise that the antisocial behaviour that's happening here is documented, and obviously it's a very big nuisance, and that is why we have changed our recommendation to that of approval subject to the lockable gate. Thank you.
So my question before I go over to councillors, it is a public footpath and it's not a private drive. Is that correct?
No, it's not. It's privately owned. It's not an adopted highway. It's not a public right of way.
Okay, right. So now we'll move on to the ward councillor, Councillor Warnes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I called this in because I felt that we needed to have an open and transparent discussion, not least because the footpath was secured, the footpath open to the public and fits in with the council's policy of trying to improve cycling and walking. And that was approved by a planning consent. My understanding is how we arrived at this situation is that my colleague Councillor Harris made an inquiry to the planning department asking whether it was permissible to erect a fence. And my understanding is that a written response came back suggesting it may be permitted development. And the next events that happened was that a site meeting was called between residents of John Castle Way and myself and my councillor colleagues, of which the blocking of this alleyway was actually discussed, and it was suggested that a formal planning application be actually put in. I, like my councillor colleague, am aware of historic antisocial behaviour, and my understanding was that that is principally around the use of basically motorcycles going up and down that walkway. But also, like my ward colleague, when the staggered fence gate was sort of put in, that was largely dealt with. And therefore, we are faced with this situation that the footway was democratically approved as part of an actual planning consent, but a fence has been erected to actually block it. My understanding is no certificate of permitted development was sought following the erection of this fence. And when the issues about the blocking of access became apparent, because people living on the Bourne Court Dudley roadside rightly objected to this access being blocked, which incidentally I've witnessed people walking through from the Barn Hall estate and through this alleyway and off to the shrub end side of, sort of Colchester. So it is a walkway that is recognised and used, but there are antisocial behaviour issues. I was at the briefing last night. I'm a bit blindsided by the sudden change in the actual recommendation, because that wasn't mentioned last night. So obviously it's something that has been dealt with this morning. It does seem to provide the basis of a reasonable compromise, but obviously the hours of closure would be something that would need to be agreed. So like my colleague, Councillor Harris, I am conflicted on this because I can see the merits of, of both sides, but I recognise that it is a properly constituted, I can't call it a public right of way because it's not, but it's a properly constituted footpath that is used and I believe recognised by the public to be a benefit, not only to the communities, both sides, but to the wider community within the south side of Colchester. Thank you.
Yes, before we move on, there's some confusion about this because I haven't been told we've changed our decisions from refusal to approval. Why weren't we or the committee told about this before we came? When I read it out, refusal, and now it turns out from planning officer that it's up for a different thing entirely. What changed your minds and why we weren't informed by it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we discussed this item at some length this morning,
And we tried to find a way to reconcile the community interest in retaining that connectivity and also trying to address the very real antisocial behaviour problems that had been experienced by the estate. And for that reason, we actually, for the first time, I think, realised that we could impose a condition requiring a scheme to be submitted, excuse me, and agreed to provide details of a lockable gate with the hours of opening to be agreed with the council in consultation with the relevant ward councillors. So we felt that was a good way forward insofar as it addressed both the issues of the antisocial behaviour by ensuring that the gate is locked during the hours of when I think normal folk wouldn't be wanting to go between the school and the park and to the pharmacy as described by the local resident. But equally, it would address the problems of antisocial hours of the day, motorcyclists and drug dealing, etc., within that route. So I'm sorry, Chair, we hadn't thought about this last night. It never come to us that we could actually potentially resolve this through the use of a condition, but we felt this presented a good opportunity for compromise in the wider public interest. Hopefully that explains it, Chair. And as Philip explained in his presentation, it is an amendment to the report insofar as we're proposing a condition that, as described, that should address both sides of the coin.
Okay, but I still feel that it should have been put into a form of an amendment sheet if you decided this morning to send around this afternoon so all of us could read it before we got to the meeting tonight. So this is the first we've heard about it in the meeting. So you can see that we're all geared up for the report that you've put in that refuses the application. And now you've done a complete turnaround without us having prior knowledge of it. I don't know what other members that they feel. Councillor Warnes.
I do think it's a logical and reasonable move which the officers have put forward, and it does form the basis of maybe a sort of compromise. I think wider considerations about whether this sets precedents in a wider scope. Obviously, I would hope the officers have actually assessed that, as there might be several walkways where people might think, well, perhaps we could put a gate in. So I would hope the officers have kind of thought that through. And having had 20 years experience in basically social housing management, my experience tells me that when you create a cut-off like that, unless those areas are lit, you will create a darkened space in which other problems may well occur. And so I would hope the officers would have thought that through. So lighting may not be an issue. I can't recall of memory. And I think the observation that my ward colleague put in about maybe CCTV would be a reasonable solution, because you probably have to remember that this gate may well be the subject of unhappiness to some, and there is a possibility that that may well be vandalised or damaged. So as long as all these issues have been thought through and a reasonable argument can be put forward, then it does form the basis on which a possible compromise may well arise.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy.
Brilliant, thank you, Chair. Obviously, we weren't aware of this amendment until a few minutes ago. Residents certainly weren't. So I don't think we can possibly approve this tonight. This needs proper consultation with residents in the area with the police. So the police have offered an olive branch to the applicant. That needs to be extended to residents, and a proper consultation in the area. Because the fact the applicant hasn't responded tonight speaks volumes. And with the locking, who locks and unlocks? If it's a resident or a select few, by proxy, they then have superiority over their neighbours. If it's the council, what happens if it's forgotten? Or if it's staffing matters, will it be CREM staff? Will it be the same time the CREM's locked up? I'm sorry, it's like all formalities gone out the window tonight. we can't possibly approve this without consultation of residents. Really can't.
Are you proposing a deferral?
Yeah, without a shadow of doubt. Yeah, I am.
And okay, is there a seconder for deferral? Councillor Davison. Got a couple more speakers and then we'll take a vote on the deferral one. Councillor Tate, please.
Thank you. I wanted to speak about the suggested gate. Sam has pretty much, Councillor McCarthy has pretty much summed up my thoughts on it. However, I would like to point out that we have such a different kind of, but it blocks off a playing field, and the resident is responsible for locking and unlocking every night because the council decided they could no longer do it. And it is the bane of her and my life. It's not a solution. It's not a solution I could approve, because one person does have superiority. If they don't feel like opening that day, that doesn't get opened. It's just one person in control of a walkway, and it's not working. You know, the lady in the other instance is sworn at when she tries to lock the gates and things like that. And it's just, I don't think that it's a reasonable solution, if I'm honest.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McLean, Sam McLean.
Yeah, sorry. Are we suggesting we defer because the recommendation has changed? Why not just debate it now and then come to that decision?
Sorry, yeah, please. Well, the decision has changed tonight, so therefore some of the residents who live nearby, they haven't been told the decision has changed, and they really should be consulted on that. So we are debating it now, which we haven't, but all the paperwork we've got now is completely out the window because it's different.
All of it.
Well, yeah, because this is all up for refusal, and now it turns out that it is not a public footpath, it is a private drive, and so therefore the person responsible there has got the right to put a fence up, and they haven't. So this is so confusing now. We don't know where we are, and I think it needs some clarity from Simon, that we need to know where we are, really.
Okay, I'm convinced by that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Would you like us to provide some clarity around that? In terms of the officer report, the only thing that has changed is the recommendation. The rest of the report stands. It's actually correct. The purpose of changing the recommendation is to try and achieve a compromise between the obviously competing interests of the residents and the wider residents who live outside the development in question. We have, or you have, as the local planning authority, the power to impose whatever conditions you see fit, or we do not have to consult on those conditions unless they are pre-commencement conditions. And clearly in this instance, it's not pre-commencement condition. We are suggesting that the condition would be that within a period of 3 months, an alternative scheme to show a gate, a lockable gate, and agree the hours of closure be submitted and agreed by the council. In terms of a CCTV camera, if that were networked, that would cost many, many tens of thousands of pounds, which is clearly unreasonable cost for the residents to bear. In terms of the locking, clearly this council can't start locking gates on private developments. That it's not its role. That will be a role for either the residents or the management committee, or indeed the residents association could do that. I don't think it gives any power to particular individuals, because there is a planning condition which controls when the gate can and can't be locked, and that is a condition that would be imposed by you as the local planning authority should you see fit. But we are very happy to take this away and to consult with the applicant over the suggested wording of the condition. If that is not acceptable to the applicant, we will return the application to this committee with a recommendation again of refusal. I hope that clarifies matters. Thank you, Chair.
It does, thank you. Councillor McLean, then go with Jackie. You good, Jackie?
Thank you, Mr Cairns, for explaining that. I think out of fairness and transparency, it should be sent back, and I think the residents should be consulted, and then maybe we could come to an agreement for somebody to man the gate, or, you know, just out of, you know, people might work together as a community. So let's engage with them and see if we can go forward without exacerbating the problem and making it a little bit more unfriendly. So, you know, let's just, I think, work with everybody, you know, out of fairness. And then, you know, we'll get maybe the result they need, and we can then support, if that's, you know, acceptable.
Yeah, sounds pretty fair. So we've got, so before we go over to the vote for deferral, oh, sorry, Councillor Davison.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, my concern is that at the moment the proposal on the table is that we will consult with the residents, but actually this access actually affects far more people than in the court and those that have been mentioned so far. That's a straightforward access to a regular bus route. It's access to a big primary school. And the alternative for older people is that you have to get off the bus at Pownall Crescent, go down to Queen Mary's, and it's a very long walk round. And I'm not sure that a lockable gate, even at say 11 o'clock at night, because you know, if you're going to the cinema or theatre, you wouldn't be home until 10:30. I'm not sure that a lockable gate is really a practical option. The other thing is that when this right of way was agreed, surely the properties that were occupied would be fully aware of the fact that the public were going past their houses. So really, you know, the buyer beware, effectively.
Oh yeah, you're right, of course, because Colchester Cycling Campaign made comments about it as well, because far route, and but for years it wasn't a public access then. It was part of the Cobb's funeral place. It was you go visit your relatives who have gone. But yeah, as you say, you have to walk all the way up Mersey Road to get the bus or go to Pownall Crescent, especially where the medical centre is. So this is a hard, difficult one. But however, we do have a proposal tonight, and before we move to the vote, I've just got Robert to read out some of the, like a condition type thing for us.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've put together something based upon what Councillor McCarthy spoke about, so I need to check this with Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Davidson as proposer and seconder, that the Planning Committee defer the application to allow consultation with the applicant and community regarding the proposed amendment of the installation of a gate. And that's what I have.
As a proposer, Councillor McCarthy and the seconder, are you both happy with that condition?
Agreed, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were second. I beg your pardon, it was Councillor Davison. Are you happy with those conditions? Thank you. So now we can now move to the vote that is on the table to defer this application, as we heard, with the conditions. All those in favour of deferral with the conditions attached, please show your hands.
9.
Are those against?
1.
And there's no abstentions? No. So therefore that decision is made. It will be deferred for further consultation for everybody, I think, which is fairer. Thank you for that. And now we'll move on to 7.1. Land to the east of Newman Road, Great Tay. It's recommended, we hope, it's the Dean, so I'm sure, that is approval subject to conditions. So it's over to Nadine now to present the case, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. You have got an application for reserved matters in front of you with a recommendation for approval that has not changed. I'll take you through the scheme. In March of 2022, this committee has looked at an outline planning application for the construction of up to 30 homes and provision of 1 hectare of public open space on this site as shown in red. It is a site allocation in the adopted local plan section 2, and all matters except access were reserved. Access is shown to be taken from Newbarn Road to the east of the site, as shown here. And this current application for reserved matters seeks permission for the details, which are landscape, layout, appearance and scale. This is the proposed site layout, which shows the provision of 30 houses in this area here, 1 hectare of public open space to the north, and drainage features in the southern part of the site. The following slides will take you through the house types. There's 30 house types. I'll go through them rather quickly. This is four 2-bed properties which are affordable houses. You've got the elevations and the floor plans. This is the 4 3-bed houses which are affordable homes. And we've got 1 4-bedroom affordable home on the site as well. The following slides are elevations and floor plans of there's 1 bungalow in the northeastern part of the site, which is a 2-bedroom bungalow. And we've got a further bungalow south of that one. And here we have examples of the proposed 3-bedroom, 2-storey dwellings. That's one of them. They vary slightly in appearance. And we've moved on to 4-bedroom properties. There's a few of them, so that's one of the 4-bed properties. That's another one. Again, there's just some slight variations in the design and layout. And then finally, coming up, we've got 1 5-bedroom property. Each property has an outbuilding. It's going to be one of these proposed. Either it's a shed in the garden or an outbuilding next to the house, which is not a garage. You could potentially park a small car in the garage, but they're not designated as garages. There's plenty of parking for each plot without this outbuilding, which could be used for storage. Now, these are views towards the site, with this being down Newbarn Road, where access is proposed or has been agreed. This is a view of the field with existing properties in Farmfield Road and Harvesters Way in the background. And then these 2 photos are taken from Farmfield Road and Harvesters Way towards the site. There is 1 amendment on the amendment sheet which was sent to you earlier in the week, and that is an amendment to condition 6, which removed permitted development rights for all plots on the site. We have reconsidered that and think that only a number of properties need to have them removed. Those are shown with the red and blue dots. The reason for removing permitted development rights for those for extensions and outbuildings for the red ones is because they have only just policy compliant gardens and may fall short of them if an extension is built, and the blue ones have been included to safeguard the amenities of neighbouring occupiers in existing residential properties. And this is just another overview of the site plan for your consideration. So having taken into account the details of the proposed scheme and compared it to the outline application, which agreed some of the parameters, it is considered that the details are acceptable, and it is therefore recommended for approval subject to the change on the amendment sheet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we move to the speakers, and public speaking against is Marion Harmer, please. Well, you have 3 minutes and the bell will go after 2, then you know you have a minute less. You'll start when you start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Marion Hamer, Chair of the Great Tay Neighbourhood Plan Group. I've previously made some submissions to planners outlining our disappointment that they have disregarded the views of our community when considering this planning application and highlighting the lack of support received from Colchester City Council in producing our neighbourhood plan. Thankfully, this has improved recently. I take this opportunity to comment on the reserved matters application to hand. Sections 8, 1 and 10 claim that stakeholders were consulted. Whilst you may have given the Great Tay Neighbourhood Plan Group and neighbouring homeowners the opportunity to comment on proposals, their opinions were ignored, rendering this exercise pointless. Sections 16.4 and 16.8 refer to standards of urban design. Your own local plan describes Great Tay as a small rural community, yet Section 16.8 refers to the suburban character of the proposed development. Why are you imposing urban design principles on the community Colchester City Council itself refers to as Ward Rural North? Section 16.5 states that the neighbourhood plan is emerging and of little or no consequence. Great Tay Neighbourhood Plan Group were encouraged to meet Colchester City Council and the developer after the application for outline planning consent was made and to consult with parishioners. At no time did Colchester City Council indicate that by following their advice to consult, the resultant delays would be detrimental. Section 16.7 states that the layout deals with sensitive edges. Whilst back-to-back distances comply with planning requirements, the side-by-side distances are inadequate, with new dwellings just 8 metres from existing properties. The hedges seem to take priority over the effect on neighbouring residents. The statement that the proposed spatial strategy is considered appropriate and results in acceptable standards of public and residential amenity is a subjective view. They are not acceptable to the neighbouring residents. Section 16.12 refers to impacts on neighbouring properties. You cite the local plan section 2, policy DM15, which promotes high quality design and requires developments to protect and promote public and residential amenity. This is patently not the case with this proposal. Again, in section 16.13, it states that amenity of existing residents to the east, the development is sufficiently far removed not to have impact. Also, Section 16.14, 2 dwellings closest to the east boundary ensure no material harm will be caused to neighbouring occupiers. This is not the case. The proposed dwelling on plot 16 has 3 windows overlooking the rear garden of the existing property, 2 bathroom windows and a bedroom window. Likewise, in sections 16, 15 and 16, plot 22 and 30, no concerns of overlooking and no material harm to amenities of neighbouring occupiers, a view not shared by those neighbouring occupiers. I urge councillors to defer consideration of this application to a later meeting and reconsider the concerns of Great Tay Neighbourhood Plan, specifically regarding the proximity of 4 plots to existing dwellings. We expect councillors to consider the interests of communities alongside those of developers, rather than favour the developer throughout. The council should be listening, not sticking to predetermined principles. No one wants to see a repeat of the 1727 Great Tay riot.
Oh, we should take you 5 minutes now. I'll have to hear about a riot in 1700 odd. Thank you for your time on that. Nadine, is there anything you want to... Oh, I beg your pardon, I forgot Councillor Salax as well. So public speaker 4 is Andrew Ransom. I do apologise. I got excited about hearing about riots in Great Tay.
Right. Good evening, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in favour of this reserved matters application at Great Tay. My name is Andrew Ransom, and I'm the agent acting on behalf of Mersey Homes, the applicant. As you recall, the outline planning application was presented to members back on the 31st of March 2022 and was subsequently approved. The key issues for consideration in this reserved matters are therefore only appearance, landscaping, layout and scale. The design approach for this development has followed extensive discussions over a number of years with all parties through the preliminary inquiry process, the outline application and the reserved matters application itself. This scheme before you has been led by the council and has evolved through a collaborative design approach. It successfully achieved sustainable development as the residential development area follows the allocated sites in the adopted local plan, an allocation found sound by the government's planning inspector very recently, just in 2022. The site sits adjacent to the existing residential dwellings in Great Tay and forms a logical extension to the village. The layout establishes a legible street hierarchy and makes provision for an excellent level of pedestrian and cycle permeability. The layout deals sensitively with edges, and the scheme also delivers a substantial area of public open space that integrates with the existing recreational ground. The development is arranged in a way that avoids any impacts on the amenity of neighbouring residents in accordance with the principles and standards of the Essex Design Guide. During the design evolution of the scheme before you, the applicant discussed alternative layout options with the council, including one preferred by the parish that would have had the development being separated from the village by linear park. However, quite rightly, the options were not taken forward following discussions with the council, as they did not conform with the adopted local plan and would have resulted in extending the residential development further into the countryside and would have failed to integrate the new development with the existing community. In conclusion, the proposed scheme has been well designed and maintains and enhances local character and distinctiveness by drawing influence from the built form found within Great Tay. There are no technical constraints that prevent this development from being delivered. I therefore hope you can agree with the planning officer and support this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to visiting councillor, Councillor William Sallings, please.
Sorry, I didn't know that I get a say, but I'll just very briefly say.
Oh, sorry, you have 5 minutes, and the
Okay.
bell will go after 4. You don't have to do all 5.
I'm not going to
Councillor,
speak for 5 minutes,
but,
you'll be pleased to hear.
We'll start when you start. Thank you.
But I will just say that the Neighbourhood Plan Group have been labouring for 7 years. And, this is a group of volunteers. They might have not done everything right, or technically right, and they may have been reliant on officers to help them. But this is the first issue on which they might have had an influence. And to find they've been overridden by Essex Design Guides and principles when it was a pretty simple request, it really is hugely upsetting for everyone. And we just feel that if this plan could be tweaked and this application could be deferred while it's tweaked, that we could get a solution that everyone could be happy with. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Okay, so now we move on. Nadine, there's a few there. Why urban design, where it is actually a proper rural ward out on the limb there, and the other items as well, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think there's a bit of a mix-up with the terms urban design. We are not saying this is an urban area. We're saying that urban design and the urban design officer who comments on applications, urban design is we design towns and cities and places. That's what it means. We're not saying that's an urban area. That's a term that we're using to create spaces and places. You will be aware that when we consult people, some people may support a scheme, some people object to a scheme. Just because we make a recommendation one way or another does not mean we don't listen to what people have to say or ignore them. Everything that has been commented on has been taken into consideration. The majority of the comments in terms of the principle have not been able to be taken into consideration because the principle for 30 houses on this site has been established. We're only looking at the details. This is a site that adjoins existing residential properties. Those properties would have had views over this greenfield site. They would have enjoyed those views. Anything that would have been proposed on this site is not going to be nice for them because it's built development where there currently isn't any built development. So any change on that site will probably not be very well received. Existing residents who have currently open views of a field. But the site has been allocated. It has been allocated for a reason. It's an extension to the existing settlement, and that's how it's been designed. Access originally should have been taken from Farmfield Road and Harvesters Way. So those two roads would have continued into the site and would have integrated that scheme very well with the existing residents. There has been some success from people in Great Tay because the access is now taken off Newborn Road. So there is a bit of, at least there's no vehicular access from those two roads. But we can't put a green open space between the two residential areas because that would not integrate the scheme into the village of Great Tay. It would just, that would be bad design. So the layout as it is proposed is the most ideal layout for that site, and it conforms with the local plan allocation. There have been 2 bungalows proposed in the northeastern corner of the site. One of the plots was referred to by the objector. Plot 16, the 3 windows, they're ground floor windows because it's a bungalow. So they will be looking at a fence. They have been positioned close to the fence, but because they're a bungalow, they're far enough removed from the existing neighbouring properties to avoid any materially harmful impact on them. I'll show you the site layout just so you know what I'm talking about. That's plot 16, which is a bungalow, which has windows facing the neighbour, yes, but there's a fence and there will be soft landscaping along that boundary, which can be secured which will be secured via condition. We've got another bungalow here, which is positioned behind number 12, Farmfield Road. Again, bungalow, should not have any issues in terms of overlooking. The other 2 properties are 2-storey properties here, but this one is located adjacent to the side wall of the neighbour, and this one is forward of the neighbour. So in terms of the layout, it was concluded after having looked at it extensively that there is no materially harmful impact on neighbouring occupiers. And I think I might leave it at that because you might have more questions, but if I've missed anything, please let me know.
Thank you. And I think we need to remind members that this application was heard in March 2022 and was approved, but was deferred to deal with reserved matters. And in your opinion, those matters have been dealt with, that they asked for, and you're happy with this to come back to us tonight?
So just to be clear on the process, it wasn't deferred. You've granted outline planning permission, and the follow-up from an outline planning permission is a reserved matters application. So all matters except access were reserved at the outline planning permission stage, which leaves appearance, landscape, layout and scale to be determined today.
Okay, thank you for clarity. Have we got anybody who wishes to speak on this item? Councillor Davison.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nadine, for the explanation. Can I just clarify what access there would be from this new site to the local primary school? Because I'm imagining the small road that they are accessing cars from the site won't have footways either way. So that means they need access through Farmfield Road and Harvester's Way perhaps, or is there another way to the school? Also, the other thing is that I noticed in the conditions, there's no potential for a for a playground for the children, and that would also serve the existing estate as well. So I think that's a missed opportunity when you've got 2 large areas of open space there.
Sorry, Nadine?
Apologies, yep. There is pedestrian and cycle access from the site through to Harvester's Way and Farmfield Road. And what we're going to secure through the condition is an access through the public open space to the public right-of-way, which runs north from Greenfield Drive. So there is a pedestrian and a cycle link to existing public footpaths and facilities in the village. It will, if those roads lead to the school, then yes, there will be, because they link to the existing infrastructure. So they can access the school through Farmfield Road and Harvester's Way. They don't have to go through Newborn Road and around. Again, if I might just show you the, apologies, it goes up and down.
Because the school's at the top of the map on the right-hand side.
So you've got pedestrian and cycle links through here, if you can see the mouse, and you've got links through here, so into Harvesters Way, into Farmfield Road, and through the public open space where it will link to the existing public open space, and that's an existing public right-of-way. And again, that goes through into Greenfield Drive, so it is linked to the existing network. While I've got it up here, this is 1 hectare of public open space here provided by the scheme, and as part of the outline application we didn't request a playground. This just provides 1 hectare of public open space, which is an extension to the existing one, so it wasn't that there's not going to be a playground or anything else. It's just open space that can be used by anyone, but that was already secured through the outline application, and unfortunately isn't anything we can do now.
Sorry, so going on from that, is it possible to insist on a public playground of some sort or not?
No, because that would have had to be secured through the outline application, which has a section 106 accompanying it, and that's been done.
I think it's a missed opportunity because there's quite a lot of houses there that need to share the existing one.
Anybody else wish to comment on this? No? Are we then happy to move to the decision that is recommended for approval? Okay, there's no more speakers. I'm going to have to say we now move on. It is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm ahead of. Have I got a proposer to accept it? Councillor Warnes. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sam McCarthy. Thank you. So we have a seconder and a proposer, and now we move on to the vote. All those in favour of the application and conditions, please show your hands.
Eight.
Those against?
1.
Those defer or abstain then?
Was that just to
one, I think.
1?
Yeah, 1. Thank you very much. So in that case, the application is approved tonight, and that concludes the business for this evening. Thank you very much for attending. Good night, everyone.